thing on the Meredith Show is to share superstars. So I'm so delighted to introduce Jeanne Stack. Jeanne, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm excited to share with our viewers that you are actually a Hollywood, we'll just put it that way now because it's true, let the cat out of the bag or bag out of the cat, whatever you want to say, I don't care. No, but really and truly, you are a director and producer, and you just produced a huge talk show. So fun.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're excited about. It's a big project.
I'm excited about the people I got to work with. They were incredible.
You built a huge team quickly.
Yeah. Found some super awesome people, and everybody was a consummate professional and showed up and did amazing work. And it was such a joy to see all that come together and those connections. And people are going to work together following the show on other projects. And I love that kind of thing. I love seeing connections and happening and seeing where everybody go.
Yeah, well, speaking of connections, you are a connector. And hello, connector. Nice to meet you. I'm a connector too. No, I love sharing good people with great people. And I mean, literally opening up our networks and doing what our part is in the world to help people shine in ways they don't even know possible sometimes.
Absolutely.
Speaking of shine, a little fun fact, you're also a photographer.
Yep.
And for many years now.
For many years, photographer and videographer. And went to Art Center here in Pasadena.
Wow. Well, there's a theme on the Meredith Show. I think you're actually the third photographer I've had the pleasure of having on the show, which is super cool. There's something about, I guess it makes sense actually. If you're going to talk about shine, the lenses come out and so do the people behind them. So yes, right? Right, Bruce, over there? Yes, thumbs up. Thank you. But the truth is, things have not always been rosy through the years. And one of the things I appreciate most are brave guests who are willing to talk about what they've overcome through the years. And for you, it's been the C word, and we'll actually say it, but quietly, cancer. 2 times.
Yeah.
Okay. That is unbelievable. And I actually personally have several friends who would love to hear how you overcame it.
Oh, gosh. The first thing I think was support community, building a community and saying, this is my team and all these people, we love each other. Let's be here for each other, because a cancer diagnosis for you is not just a cancer diagnosis for you. It's for the people you love as well.
Well, I can relate to that because I lost my best friend, my dad, to pancreatic cancer, which is, if you don't know, I think it's less than 1% survival rate. So thank God you're here. Even though it's hard to talk about, but that not only is that community important, but I know from experience, being willing to debate, you don't have to be strong all the time because that's a crock of you know what.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Also, I would assume, and please tell me what worked for you, is mental strength. My father decided to die, and quite promptly he did that. Yeah. I'm smiling because my dad was sort of wise bleep, a bleep bleep, and he was told he could live for 90 days, and so on the 91st day he said his goodbye.
Wow.
So that was his FU to cancer in the world.
Wow.
And so we have to be careful what we commit to, but I'd like to know what mindset you had to survive.
As I said, team and God and my family, and I just knew the things that I was living for, and it wasn't selfish, it was to be something in the world for other people. And I knew that going through this was a gift for me to give to other people, because it made my story something that someone could say, wait a minute, I don't have to be sad and embarrassed and ashamed, and I don't have to accept this as I am the cancer person, and I don't have to believe that this is going to be the rest of my life. It's a moment in time, it's a season in time. And the vigilance was kind of crazy because you get very, everything causes cancer, and start freaking out about all that. But truly just accepting that I definitely had more to do in this world, in this life, and just a lot of prayer and meditation about that particular subject, and reaching out to people. I reached out. I'm a kind of person that sometimes is very, nobody wants to hear my pain. Nobody wants to get involved in the sad stuff, so I'm just going to keep to myself. And during that time, I met some incredible survivors. I met some incredible people getting chemo. I met some incredible people in the support staff at the hospitals. And people stepped up. People showed up. It was startling. Just total strangers.
Yes, I have to say, I have to this day amazing friends who just heard about my father's diagnosis, reached out, followed up. These are people that I had just met, that are now like lifelong friends. It's amazing when you're going through the horror, the beautiful gifts of people showing up for you that you never even imagined or knew could or would, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's crazy. And the beauty of life, and one of the things I love to talk about on the Meredith Show is through that, we often find that not only are we here to do more, but we have big gifts. And I think you are masterful, if I may say, at building a TV show, at leading a team, at what they say in the leadership world, you can create something out of nothing. Like there was an idea recently, and you not only pulled off like, guys, this is pretty cool that I have a little studio set going on here, but Jeanne created 3, or maybe 4. Was it 4?
It was 4. 3 in the house, and then we did a car.
Yeah, a car. She actually, you actually had somebody from Carpool Karaoke help you.
That was sorry for speaking over you, but that was a complete accident. I brought in a stylist. Her guy was somebody who worked on Carpool Karaoke, and I'm like, okay.
We get to do segments of the car?
We get to do this anyway, and he was like, I'll help you with some of this. And I love when people show up and have their gifts and share them, and it was wonderful.
Clearly, that is a huge part of your mission. And at the end of the day, there are always road bumps. So for me, when I went through my divorce, I literally, there's actually another name that people used to call me. Instead of Meredith, it was Meredith. That's a cross, Meredith, it was Mermit. Cross between a Meredith and a hermit. The Mermit would come out, and they would call me Mermiting, and things like that. So I was a hider, much like yourself, who didn't used to ask for support or open up. And I know you've been through some really hard times as well, and hard relationships you've shared in our pre-interview, just like me. So, what helped you get through that? Because for me, I had to hit a rock bottom, and then I felt like, okay, you have nowhere to go but up, But that was my story. I really want to hear yours.
I had, which I don't think people like to even call it this anymore, nervous breakdown. And was hospitalized for 2 weeks, and my family came up and brought me back home. And then I entered a group, lots of counseling, listening. My dad introduced me to something that was shocking to me. I'd never heard of it before, the Midwestern Center for Anxiety and Depression. And I listened to those tapes and let that sort of sink in. And I joined a group at my church called CR. And it was a group of people who survived abuse, and we just supported each other. And it was a safe place to speak about all the things that were a problem and were hurtful and that held us in that relationship. And I learned the dynamic, which for me was necessary to see, because all I saw was this person that I love and they're struggling, and I put up with so much because that was happening, instead of saying, wait a minute, you get to be sad and upset and I get to support you, but that doesn't look like you taking it out on me or you being out of control.
Yeah, I just want to stop you because I want to speak right to the camera. I think that people don't always want to talk about things like these, but I'll openly say I was in the exact same place and space, and I was hiding it as a public figure at the time. I had my own television show, I owned a marketing agency, and the hiding will never let you heal, right? I mean, I think it's when you finally, to your point, I had a crazy rationale that depression, which is what my ex had, is like a disease, like diabetes, and you don't just leave somebody, but he was violent, and so you do step away from things like that. And you're right, that's a line that people who are so loving, which you are, and many of us, sometimes, I know for me, I chose crazy town for a really long time until I couldn't anymore. And,
Yes.
and sometimes we all have a snapping point, and that was unfortunately like a really violent moment. And I just recognized, like, I don't want this life. I can't live this life, and I want a child someday. I get to have that. I'm not willing to share that with a child. Like,
Absolutely.
my ex almost, in one of his tirades, threw over a chest and missed my dog, which is like my child right now, by like less than an inch. And I think these are moments where you're like, no, I can't anymore.
Yeah.
So what was your defining moment to get help?
I literally couldn't stop crying or getting out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed. And I kept fooling myself with well, he's never going to hit me. I'm never going to get hit. So I'm safe. I'm not going to get hit. And that was startling now that I think about it.
Oh, I used to think that, and then it happened to me. So I totally get that. I mean, we just rationalize whatever we think makes sense until it doesn't, right?
Yeah, and for me, it was like I kept giving myself milestones. If this doesn't happen by this time with this much and this, then I'm going to have to go. But I always was afraid he was going to be so hurt that he could not survive it, and I had to protect him. And I took on all this guilt and responsibility that was not mine to carry. And it's a tragic situation for everybody, and it would be
nobody wins in that situation. I agree with you for sure.
Yeah.
But I will say, one of the things I recognize and I see in you is extraordinary compassion and strength. Because when we have a lot of things that are thrown at us in life, and at the end of the day, I have to dig deep and say, well, if I've gone through that, do you feel that way sometimes?
Yeah, I do. And I also feel like, have you ever heard the phrase, I think it's shame the devil? Every time I want to hide something and keep it to myself and I'm embarrassed about it, especially with relationships, I have learned that's the warning sign. That's the red flag. Go the opposite direction. Talk to people about it, because the people in your life who love you are going to give you a nice reality check and keep you on the right path.
Yeah, for me, it was my sister. I called it, like, when you phone a friend, like, I didn't want to tell anybody about my relationship and the things that were happening. And my sister drove, I think it was like 7 hours, was at my doorstep. And the next day I was in a divorce attorney's office just crying, thinking, I don't know what to do. And she's like, I know what to do. And she put her credit card down on the table. And thank goodness, because now I'm in like the happiest season of my life and never even knew this level of joy. And so I know, what do we say? Bless the mess.
Yes.
Grateful for my wounds. And so I'm grateful for your courage to share the story, because I know there's somebody out there, inevitably, Jeanne, whenever I do public speaking, as many of you guys know, motivational speaking is one of my greatest passions besides doing the Meredith show. But the one huge connection point every time I exit the stage, when I open up about that relationship and how horrific it was to get out of it, people crowd around.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, that was my story. Thank you for sharing that. This was my mother, my sister. So thank you for being a stand of like, life is not perfect.
No, it's not. And it's amazing when you start listening to the stories of perseverance, and that people can still have joy beyond all of this. And frankly, in those situations where someone is hurting someone else, or both people are hurting each other, keeping in mind that that's some form of addiction, and keeping in mind that in that destructive relationship, you're actually doing a disservice to each other by staying.
Yes, I love that. It's time to go at a certain point with friendships and any romantic relationships, whatever it is, whatever it takes. And on a bright note, I would like to say, I think that's probably what makes you extraordinary at managing big projects, at taking somebody's vision for an idea of a show and creating so much so quick. Just for fun fact, I had the pleasure of being an honored guest on my friend Jeanne and Janet's show. The pilots and the episodes that you put together took a lot of time and energy. But I have to say, what you put together was extraordinary, top notch.
I have an incredible team, and I count everyone in that. And we all have flaws, and we all get to stand up for each other and keep going.
Well, I think, speaking of keeping going, that is like the most beautiful shine there to remind people that you get to shine no matter what. That's the message of today, I'm sure. And if you need an amazing producer, director, creative person, Jeanne is your genius. And thank you. Do I get credit for that, Jeanne, the genius? I like it.
Trademark.
No, you probably heard it before, I know, but I really mean it. Thank you so much for coming on to the show and sharing your inspiration. And I think it will make you, quite frankly, much more attractive to work with, because I cannot stand, for those of you who are watching, in Hollywood, we have a lot of fakes. And right here, this is the real deal. Thank you for sharing your joy and your shine.
You're so welcome.
And thank you all for watching. The greatest gift you can give us is taking a little time to share the love. So please share the segment and reach out to us. I know Jeanne and I would love to hear from you, and all of her contact information is right there on the screen for you. We look forward to seeing you again very soon on the next Meredith Show episode. Thank you, Jeanne, for being such a lovely guest.
Thank you.
If you liked today's episode, we hope that you'll like us on Facebook and stay connected. You can find us under The Meredith Show there, and on Instagram under The Meredith Show. And if you or somebody you know you think will make a great guest, please email us at meredith@themeredithshow.com, and my team will set up an appointment right away.